Hey guys, so today I wanted to go a little bit into my testimony, or at least part of it. It's really been the most significant part yet. So basically, when I say God transformed me in 3 months, I mean like God transformed me like completely in like 3 months. And so, or at least almost completely, because the work is never really done. And so, yeah, it's actually really crazy because I was working a job. I won't say the name of the company, obviously, but I was working a job, and excuse me, it got to a point where like I hated it. Like I could not be there. Like I kid you not, I would be at work praying to God, like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why did my feelings change? Is it me? Am I just being ungrateful? Like, what's going on? Like, what's really happening? But it was like, the more I prayed about it, the more irritable I got, and the more unbearable the situation became. And it wasn't even like anything had really changed per se. The only thing that really like externally was, I'll say, could have been a catalyst if it weren't for like what I know now. I got a promotion, like, and when I say got a promotion, I was offered a promotion. Nothing was in writing. There was no official meeting or anything like that. There was no changes or updates made in the system about it, anything like that. And so that really, it really hurt, because I was kind of like, okay, well, this, like, for context, like for contextual purposes, I worked at that at that specific company like off and on for like 5 years. So this company had been a significant part of my young adult life, basically. And so it really left a bad taste in my mouth at that time, because I was just kind of like, okay, you know, and I'm the kind of person, like, word is bond for me. Like, if you say it, like what you say, I'm gonna hold you to what you say, regardless of what you try to do. And so it really rubbed me the wrong way. But I was hurt more than anything. But even in the crazy part about it, and this is a testament to how good God is like, no matter how upset I was, if God didn't change my heart about the situation, if God didn't make it to where, like, if God didn't convict me to the point where I literally couldn't stay any longer, I would have stayed. Like, I had really allowed the sentiment of the experience to cloud the fact that it was still a job. Period. Point blank, period. And so, especially like a corporation at that, while my job role wasn't corporate, the company itself was a corporation. So it was, looking back on now, I realized that it was more, there should have been more distance placed, at least for me and for the preservation of myself. And obviously, like, I know that now, but I needed that experience. I did. And so it got to a point where I was like, okay, because I've always wanted to live in Texas. I'm not in Texas, mind you, but that's, part of the story later. So I really wanted to go to Texas. I kept perceiving it. I was like, I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Texas, blah, blah, blah. And so it didn't work out, obviously. I'm not there, so it didn't work out. But the reason it didn't work out is because I wasn't being fully obedient to what the Lord was prompting me to do, where he was prompting me to go, anything like that. Like, I was looking in Texas, but I wasn't looking in the city that God had very obviously shown to me, very obviously told me about. Like, none of that. I was like kind of looking for myself and going based on logic instead of going based on the literal creator of the universe. And so, like, and it didn't work out, obviously, because I wasn't doing it his way. I was trying to do it my way, thinking that my way was better, knowing that it's not. And so that was the next, like, I'll say the next pivotal moment. And so literally I have pretty much been unemployed the entire time, ever since August. And because I was like, well, if I'm not gonna go to Texas, I might as well find a job here where I'm at. I'm in Tennessee. And when I tell you, God put up every stop that he could. And one thing about the Lord that we serve, he's gonna make himself like very clear. Like, there is no confusion, like, as it pertains to the Lord and the things that he tells us, the things he instructs us to do, because he is not man that he shall lie, nor is he son of man that he should repent, And I was floored. I was flabbergasted, to say the least. And I was just kind of like, okay, nothing's working. And I got really frustrated. I was very angry at first. Like, dare I say, I was angry at God, because I was like, God, like, what's going on? Like, I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do, blah, blah. Like, what are we doing here, And that's how isolation had started. And this was definitely, I would say, if this wasn't my first isolation season, this would definitely only be my second. And it was rough. It was lonely. It was very, very lonely at first, because I still needed to learn how to be a friend to the Lord. I still had to learn how to be a friend to the Lord. So I'm sitting here focused on the friends that I can't go see, or, whatever. And I just felt really isolated and alone, to a point where I was like, well, okay, God, well, you're here, so I might as well talk, like, deep in this. I might as well, like, keep talking to you, go deeper, like, talk to you about more things. And so fasting got introduced in September or October. I think I started fasting. I think I added fasting with my praying in September, like end of September. And mind you, the only prior experience of fasting that I had was doing a water fast. I did it for 6 days. I intended on going for 7, but I only went for 6. And it wasn't even for the Lord. It was like it was a spiritual thing, quote unquote spiritual thing. It was more so like, oh, like I want to be closer to the universe, and like back when I was in that stage of life. And it was cool, and like I didn't do it again, but I definitely felt the difference. I got exactly what I was expecting out of the experience. Now, when it came to fasting for the Lord, it was rough, because one of the things that I struggled with the most was idolatry. And food, work, a person, like, were my biggest idols. And it was like the Lord had stripped everything away that was an obstacle between us getting closer. And the job was first, then it was food, because at this point, the Lord is calling me to fast. It wasn't like, oh, let me add in fasting, or let me just do it for myself. It was like, no, you're being called to fast. I'm trying to break things off of you. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. And first and foremost, the spirit of lust was broken off of me. The spirit of perversion got broken off of me, like, so many, and it was quick. And mind you, the first 3 or 4 fasts that I did, they were all dry fasts, 3-day dry fast, like Esther fast. And it actually, I would say the first one was difficult, the second one was difficult, but by the time I did it a third time, I could do it, and it was actually easy for me. Not speaking on anybody else, it was easy for me. And yeah, like, actually, because I want to say the first time I did it, I actually got sick. Well, I won't say I got sick, I'll say my body had a reaction as if I were getting sick. And what I learned is that that's actually a trick of the enemy. Like, your body will start to feel like, you'll feel feverish, you'll feel sick, you may even have a cough, but really what it is the enemy trying to distract you so that you end your fast before you're supposed to. And I'm not gonna lie, I ended the fast because I didn't know any better. Like, I genuinely didn't know any better. And the craziest part about it is that it was a prophetic word. I forget the girl's name. Like, it was a YouTuber I had never seen before. I wasn't subscribed to her, nothing. And her video, I remember her video popped up a few times, like a couple days prior, like 2 or 3 days prior, and I saved it to my watch later. And I don't know if y'all are like me, but when I put something in my watch later, I have to intentionally go back and watch it. Otherwise, it's in the void. It's in the abyss. Like, it's there. And that's what happened with this video. Like, I saved it to my watch later. Either I saved it to my watch later, or I was like, oh, I don't need that. I don't think that's for me. But then, after I had already broken my fast, I watched it, and I was like, this is what I need. I was like, this was actually for me, and I needed to hear this, because literally what the woman was saying was like, she was like, be careful of, tricks of the mind, tricks of the enemy. you know, you will start to feel like, she verbatim, what happened to me is exactly what she was talking about. She was like, if you start to feel sick, it's because you're getting close to ending your fast. Like, push through it. Don't break your fast. And I was like, well, I already broke my fast. And so, blah, blah. And so that's how the next week I ended up doing it again, because I was like, okay, Lord, I was like, I really want to complete this. I really want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I think, yeah, I think I broke that fast early too, but I forget why. My memory leaves me as to why. But I do remember the second time I did it for it was over 2 days. Yeah, it was over 2 days, less than 2.5 days. I know that. I think like 56 hours. And then, yeah, because the first fast, it was only like about the same, like 56 hours. I think both times it was about 56 hours or in that range. And so, and mind you, both fasts were projected to be for 72. And yeah, so I did that. I was like, okay, I'm learning, I'm doing it. And even in October, I got to a point, like all of October, I fasted like every single week, like 3 days a week, every single week. And, or at least, that's what the projected would be, right? But minimum, I would fast for like 2 days actively. And so the water fasting it has been difficult for me, but I know it's needed. I know it's necessary. I know that there is a purpose for it. There is a reason for it. And, whatever their reason is, And so I'm getting better on that. I hope that that's something that I master soon. So that way, like, when I do it, it's not so tedious. It's not so difficult. It's not so, because it's not the process itself, but I saw a video from Stephanie Ike Okafor, and she literally said, she's like, if you finish your fast, like if you complete your fast and you immediately run to food, or you immediately, go to break your fast, you missed the point. And I said, ooh, yikes. And so, because I won't say that I'll like run to break my fast, not every single time, but it has been more times than not where I would basically just be like, oh, okay, fast over, and I was, and when she said that, it put it in perspective, like, okay, imagine if someone did that to you. I know I wasn't like that, and so it's definitely a progress. It's not progress, it's a process, I mean. And so, yeah. And that's that's majorly how that 3-month period went. So from August to November, and like changing my mindset and changing everything, like that was mostly what it was, like prayer, petitioning, fasting, like all the things, and being consistent about it, and really spending time with the Lord, because I needed him. I need him now, but like I really needed him. I was devastated, or I was heartbroken. I was so just, it befell me like why all these things were happening. I was just kind of like, okay. And I was frustrated more than anything. I was upset more than anything. But now I'm at that threshold of, God, I'm glad it didn't work out my way. I'm glad it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to happen. And that's a really good spot to be in. It is. Especially because, you know, being a believer in this day and age it's a delicate dance at first, just because not, you know, like, Jesus is either cool or he's not, you know, like, and I mean that from an opinion perspective. I'm not saying that, you know, of my opinion. I love Jesus. Jesus is that guy, point blank, period, in my head. And so, but, you know, obviously we're not to conform to the things of this world anyway. So I feel like if you have that concept, like, if you grasp that concept, then it makes it simpler as you walk with God, as you pick up your cross, all of those things. But if you haven't really grasped that concept and you keep going back to spaces you've outgrown, or like you're in this very like outdated way of acting as is relevant to your life, you're just gonna make it harder on yourself. It's just gonna be more difficult, more frustrating, all the things, and ultimately more heartache, more pain unnecessarily, you know. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's really how things turned around so fast, like mentally, emotionally. I'm obviously still healing every day, but when I say so many things shifted, so many perspectives I had that I didn't know I had, or even if I knew I had it, like, it changed so much. Like, I was totally different. Like, when I say that I was transformed by the renewing of my mind, that's exactly what happened. And I want that. I want people to experience that. I want people to feel the immense love that God has for us. And I don't mean in another person, but I mean like directly, like straight from the source, straight from God, you know, like feel that, be consumed by that, walk in the spirit by that. You know what I mean? Like, experience it, seek his face, you know, because that's really what's gonna get us through anything. Like, until our time is up, that's it. You know, like, God is really all we have in the grand scheme of things. That's really the only thing that matters. That's the only opinion that matters. Like, because even when you think about it, the people you love, you know, we all have an end date. We all have an expiry date, you know, put it like that. And you don't know the day or the hour that your loved one will leave this earth. And how cool would it be if they got to experience God's love and then got to go meet him after this world, after their life on this earth? That would be pretty sick. Like, that'd be pretty sick, you know? And I want that for the people I care about. And I pray that you do too, you know? Share the good news, share the gospel, like, and I feel like we had got, as a society, I mean, we got to a point where it was almost like taboo, like it was almost like silenced to talk about Jesus. And, you know, which is odd because Jesus died for our sins, but go off, I guess. And so, you know, but that's what happened. That's where we got to, was literally, it was almost a like social faux pas to bring up God. And don't let it be a setting that would be considered worldly, or don't let it be a setting where God has left them or they left God. Like they turned away from God. Because I've been in situations like that where the atmosphere would cease. Like it was like that one sound where it's like the record scratching and it's like it was like that. Like it would disrupt. It was literally like the equivalent to where Sarah Jakes Roberts was like, a word from God will disrupt the atmosphere, but perverted by the enemy. Like it was like the flip version, because that's what the enemy does. He flips what God intends for good and he perverts it and uses it to denounce God, to rebel against God, to trick us, to manipulate us, and ultimately to kill, steal, destroy. And, you know, it's one thing I can definitely say that I appreciated throughout that 3-month period was the fact that I was alone. I didn't have to explain myself because I didn't even know where God was leading me. I didn't know what was happening. I went through a pruning season. It was wild. It was pretty wild. And, you know, I lost people, like not physically, obviously they're still alive, but you know, like losing relationships, like losing people that I thought would be in my life forever. And it just didn't happen that way. But I'm so glad that we serve a God who sees things we can't see and hears conversations we can't hear, because there's no telling what dangers you are protected from based off that, just based off our Father who went before us, you know? And so, glory be to God. But just this is like a slight testimony, nothing crazy. It's not a full testimony. We'd be here for years if I did. But yeah. So I just really want to talk about that. And, you know, I pray that you're safe. I pray that you have peace that surpasses all understanding. And I pray for deeper intimacy with God for you. Well, you have to want it for yourself. I love you. I'll talk to you later.